Hello everybody, I'm Lorii Abela, your Asian matchmaker and soulmate expert. Welcome to tonight's episode of Matchmaker Secrets, where we talk about love, dating, and relationships. Rarely we get to invite somebody who has a Jewish background. The last time we had was a guy. Of course, like we love Chase, Stewart Chaseman. So he was hilarious, but our guest tonight, she can be crazy too. Our guest tonight is Ashley Urisman. And she is Jewish, and she is current government affairs professional who calls Chicago's Logan Square neighborhood home. When she isn't refreshing the news, Ashley enjoys listening to podcasts, playing pub trivia, long walks through the aisles of Trader Joe's, going to the gym, and volunteering with organizations she is passionate about. So hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Very good. So like, did you watch that, Jewish matchmaking TV episodes?
Yeah, I watched the whole show. It was really interesting to see. I sometimes love a dating show. And it's really interesting to see how your culture, your faith gets kind of distilled and packaged for a mainstream TV audience. So that was an experience for sure. And I've actually met Stewart at a couple of Jewish community events, and he's a great guy. So,
was there any favorite of yours, like among the ladies?
Among the ladies, I liked that girl. I think it was Miami or somewhere in Florida. She seemed very sweet, so I did like her.
Okay, all right.
I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I know, because after a while it hasn't been playing not too recent, so sometimes you forget. How important is it for you to date someone who shares your Jewish faith, and why?
That's a great question. I think the importance for me has really shifted since my last relationship ended. October 7th happened while I was dating my ex, and this is like an emotional thing, but it really showed me how tenuous our situation is in the world. Jews as a people are so often misunderstood and mischaracterized, and there's a difference between the experience of a diaspora Jew like myself who lives outside of Israel and an Israeli Jew, and the politics of Israel versus the reality of living in Israel. And it's been easier for me very often to talk about it with people who understand, and so there's immediately a shared intimacy when I meet a potential partner who is Jewish. So I date people of all faiths and ethnicities, but lately this go around I've noticed both that I'm getting more matches from people who are fellow Jews and less from non-Jews, because I'm very open about that on all of my profiles, and with my identity I wear a Star of David necklace most days of the week, so you can find me. But I've been getting more attention from prospective Jewish partners, and on the flip it feels easier to talk to them because they are going through what I'm going through.
That makes sense. A lot of situation going on over there. Who knows what's gonna happen? I was in Israel in last year, May, and so I'm just so happy because we got to go there before the whole situation came about. I have an uncle who went back to Canada a week after that happened. I was thinking oh my God, you'll never know. I don't want to be stuck over there.
Yeah, and it's even, as the war escalates, and I promise we'll change the tack, because there's so much more to the Jewish culture than Israel politics.
That's right.
But the war has really, I just want to put this out there for anyone watching, the war is not being conducted, in my opinion, and I think the important thing to know is you're talking to me, you've talked to another Jewish person, but we all come to this from a different perspective, and all of our politics are different, all of our experiences are different, all of our methods of practice are different. What binds us together is this shared history of being a diasporic people, and so our shared culture, our shared faith, and our shared history. The way the war has unfolded is not in line with my personal Jewish values, but at the same time, the perpetrators of October 7th, I think, need to be held accountable, and I don't think that that's what's happening right now, and it is continuing to pull our community apart. But when you go on a date with a Jewish person, that feels like a much safer space for open discourse than if you're on a date with someone else, where you have to try and present, right, your little minority group in the best possible light. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. I never thought about it that way, because like obviously there was no war before, and so like everything looks normal, and then yeah, you can date whoever, but now like there's a common bond like which is going on. Okay. So what role does tradition play in your dating life, and are there any specific rituals or customs you observe when starting a new relationship?
Sure. There's no specific Jewish customs or rituals that I observe. Usually high holidays or Passover, another big Jewish holiday, is a great opportunity to introduce a new partner to your family, because the focus is not on the partner, it's on the observance of the holiday. So it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. I also really love Passover. I love that it's this amazing tradition, and people sit down to tell this like epic story. And there's all of these fun little rituals. So my last partner was raised Catholic, and I took him to his first ever Passover Seder, and he loved it. He's like, this is incredible. And I have some friends and coworkers, friends at work who are my coworkers, who are not Jewish, and we had another coworker who got married, and we all went to his wedding, and they were like, this is the best wedding we've ever been to, it's so fun. And so those are all really special rituals that I hope to share with whoever I end up with.
Yeah, you're dancing haba, haba. No, because like I have a friend who married a Jewish guy, used to live in New York, and it's funny because like that was the first wedding that I've seen, which is Jewish. But when I was living there, I was working for a Jewish family. Like they have a business which is telecommunications. I'm just happy because my boss also had a restaurant. So like, I get to try, like, they're Persians, but it's still like the same kind of things, like, a lot of food on the table, and then like family is valuable for them. They love family and gatherings, so we have something in common, eating.
Yes, 100%. We love to eat.
Yeah, and celebrations. Okay, so how do you balance modern dating practices with the cultural and religious values you were raised with?
I think you touched on it. I am a Reform Jew, so I don't keep kosher. I don't eat bacon because there's a lot of fat on it, but it's like, I don't keep kosher. I don't keep Shabbos, but like there have been people who've asked me out on dates, and I said I can't Yom Kippur, like I need to be fasting. I can't be out and drinking and like doing date activities. Like I need to be working on myself. So sometimes it's educating non-Jewish partners about the importance of certain holidays and of certain things and of certain, we'll call them like cultural contexts about, conversations that are happening. And I know this isn't, a political question, but there's been a lot of discourse swirling like about, why Kamala Harris didn't pick Josh Shapiro to be her vice president and all of that. And so those are, in modern dating, if I'm not dating someone Jewish, like those are important conversations to have in like a caring and thoughtful way to help educate people about like your own worldview and your own method of practice. And for me, it's something that's non-negotiable for myself. Like I would never identify as anything else. I would never convert to a different religion. So they need to know that like, if you're dating me, like I don't really understand what Easter is about.
Okay, how is it? Like, if this guy who really is in love with you, are you okay with them to convert?
I would never ask someone to convert for me. For me, it's not really an issue. I don't have to marry a Jewish guy. For those who are unfamiliar, in Judaism, Judaism is matrilineal, which means that the faith and the identity is passed through the mom. So it's never really required for a Jewish woman to marry a Jewish man, other than for the purpose of like giving Jewish men the opportunity to like have Jewish families themselves. Everyone is unique. I don't want to have kids, so that's not really a concern that I have. If he wants to convert because he has always respected the culture beyond like Seinfeld, and he like loves the religion and all of that, I would encourage him, but it's certainly not a requirement. Or I would want him though to participate in certain, religious rituals and family gatherings that are surrounding holidays, but I would never drag him to a synagogue, like just for no reason.
Okay, all right. No, because like I have a friend, she's African American, and then she all the while like, okay, what happened? I cannot see her in my Facebook anymore. She changed. After getting married, she she is from Chicago, and then she moved to, I have no idea how, I'm sure it was through online dating. She married a Jewish guy, and then she converted and changed her name.
Again, everyone's practice is different. What everyone is looking for is different. If they're a family who wanted to have kids, I think that was maybe a request that he made because the kids would not be Jewish unless she converted. Because again, matrilineal passes through the mom, but that's not a concern for me. But some people do. And I have a friend from college. I met her on my first day of college. I went to the Hillel, which is the Jewish Students Organization. And she straight up told me, she wasn't dating anyone. She just had always admired Judaism, and she spent a lot of time at Hillel because she was planning on converting, and she wanted to kind of get a head start on participating in the community. And I thought that was great, and I really loved that she loved our culture so much.
Wow, that's great. Okay. Have you faced any challenges in dating outside the Jewish community, and if so, how did you navigate them?
I think the answer is yes, and I think a lot of it is cultural misunderstanding. I was raised in an immigrant family. My parents grew up in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, for those who are unfamiliar, a communist country, religion was illegal. So our family had really no concept of how to practice any religion. We had a concept of identity until my parents came to the United States in the 1970s and started to learn about Judaism as a faith. That being said, we never grew up observing any other kinds of holidays. Cough, cough. I had never celebrated Christmas until I was 24, and I was dating a Catholic guy who invited me home to Boston for Christmas one year, and that was my first Christmas. I had never celebrated Easter. So it's a lot of me learning about what other people's cultures are like, and it's a lot of my educating other people on what my culture is like and on how my family, with their unique story, is how they are different than other Jews they may have encountered. So that's really been the biggest challenge. I have mostly been met warmly and kindly with the disclosure of my religion. It's not a secret. It's on, I think, almost all of my dating profiles. It's straight up right there. And I have a lot of good conversations with people who don't practice. And to be clear, again, I'm Reform. I observe Yom Kippur. I think I might have to work because there's an immovable event on Rosh Hashanah this year. I am not the staunchest practitioner, but I've talked to people who don't even say that they're Jewish on their profiles, even though they were raised Jewish, because they didn't want potential partners to think that they were religious. But it fosters great conversations. And I think that's really what dating is all about, right? It's having conversations, getting to know people, getting to know what their lifestyle is like. So it's generally been a positive experience.
Okay, all right. I know that you had a positive experience, but I'm just wondering, online dating, don't you get bashed or something? Because there's some people who are against,
I think / hope that most people who match with me matched out of genuine interest.
Okay.
If I do receive, and I don't think it's ever been related to my identity, there are some people, and we're looking at the kind of what we talked about at the beginning in response to October 7th, who have some language in their profiles that indicates to me that I'm not a partner that they're interested in, or vice versa. If we match and start chatting and I notice that in their profile, maybe I didn't see it from the jump, I very politely say, you know what, I just took another look at your profile and I actually don't think that we're a good match in the long term, and I unmatch. So I really don't, I use online dating for positive purposes. I want to meet people, I want to connect with people, and then meet them and have a good experience. And even if it's not something that results in, a relationship or marriage, 8 times out of 10, it's nice to go out on a Wednesday night and meet a new person and just have a time out, right? It hasn't really been my experience, and I prefer to unmatch rather than engage with people who are cruel.
Okay, that's being polite. All right, that helps. What qualities do you look for in a partner that align with your Jewish identity?
I think a lot of the values associated with Judaism, especially Reform Judaism, just kind of straight up, being community oriented. I'm someone who is active in the Jewish community. I go to a lot of events. After I leave here, I'm going to a Jewish book club at a rabbi's house. So someone who is supportive of that, and if they themselves are not really comfortable in that space, someone who gives me the freedom without, the grief to go and participate in that, and then come home and tell them, hey, I had a really great time at this thing. Let me tell you all about it. Let me tell you about the new friends I met or whatever it is. So if we're not if we're not of the same religion, that's how I would navigate that. If I'm dating a Jewish person, I don't know that I would be able to date someone who kept kosher, because I do not keep kosher. And I, just prefer to consume a lot of foods that aren't kosher. And so that, I think, is like a fundamental like lifestyle difference that has to be considered. And that's always a really great conversation to have when you meet someone who is a fellow Jew. Like, tell me about your method of practice. Like, even beyond, Reform is pretty straightforward, but there's levels of conservative, there's levels of Orthodox. Tell me about what your practice means to you, because even within those other levels of Judaism, there's a spectrum. There are people who call themselves like conservadox, who like don't drive on the Sabbath, but who, might eat at a non-kosher restaurant when it's not the Sabbath. They won't order like the pork tenderloin. They might order like a vegetarian dish, but that's their level of practice. And there are some people who are conservative, not even trending towards Orthodox, who will only eat out in kosher restaurants. So it's really just getting to know the individual and getting to know what their personal preferences are.
Have you dated somebody who's traditional or conservative?
I have not, again, just because it's too much of for me, the lifestyles are too different. When you observe the Sabbath in a conservative or Orthodox way, you don't really use like electricity on the weekends. This happened in college, and I'm sorry that this happened. So I had some Orthodox friends, just like girlfriends, who invited me over to their house on the Sabbath to just spend the day playing board games, all this stuff. Because you can't really use electricity, you leave all the lights on, you cook your food kind of in a crock pot that just is on all day, so that the food is hot and ready to eat whenever you're hungry, but you don't have to cook it at that day, things like that. So I was at my friend's house, and I went to use the bathroom, and out of habit, I just flipped off the lights when I was done. And they got so mad at me, because they cannot ask, it's one of the Sabbath rules, is you cannot ask a fellow Jewish person to break the Sabbath. But because that's not how I observe the Sabbath, to me, I don't work on Saturdays and I go have fun, I was like, I'll just turn it back on. And they're like, no, we're not asking you. We can't ask you to turn the lights back on. I'm like, you're not asking me. I'm just doing it. But that was like a fun, like, cultural exchange. Like, even within our religion that happened. So to me, I try to look for Jewish partners who are kind of on the same spectrum of observance as I am, so that we don't have these like awkward moments.
Okay, this is an interesting question. Do you think that, just in case you fall in love with somebody who is from Israel, would you go to Israel?
That's a very interesting question. I really love being an American. I have lived my entire life right here in Cook County, Illinois, except for when I went to college downstate. I don't know that I would do well in Israel. If I fell in love with someone who was Israeli, he's welcome to come here and marry me, and I'm happy to sponsor his green card and his citizenship. But I don't think that I would move to Israel now.
Okay, I think that's great that you understand, okay, this is my boundary, this is where I'm gonna stay. Okay, are you gonna be a gymnast or something? You will just be an American. Yeah. There were some Olympics people, and then they changed their nationality just for the sake of being the star of that particular country. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're okay, pro-America.
Yeah. If you've seen that show Mad Men, there's a really great episode, I think in the first season, where the Israeli Tourism Bureau is interviewing ad agencies, and so they interview Sterling Cooper, and Ron is having an affair with this Jewish woman who owns a department store who's also a client of theirs. So he invites her to lunch to be like, tell me about Israel. Like, I don't get it. And the way she sums it up is it's so well stated, and it's such a good articulation of the American Jewish position. I would recommend everyone just watch Mad Men, because it's a great show. That's what I have to say about that.
Okay. I just, toss the question out there. You'll never know, what kind of response. Because one time I have somebody who was asking me for a Jewish woman that he wants to marry, and then it was just a consultation call, but he is looking for somebody who is from Israel. Because like I would imagine like, you know, he wants to go back there. So yeah.
And again, everyone is different. I don't believe I have any family who are still alive in Israel. We had some of my grandpa's cousins lived there, but they have since passed away. So there's not really like a familial connection. There's not really, for me personally, a cultural connection in that Israeli people are very, oh my God, I'm gonna get in so much trouble. No, my experience of Israeli people is that they are, you know, I'm Midwest nice, or I was raised to be Midwest nice. They're very direct with you. They don't waste time being polite. And it doesn't mean that they're mean, but it's different. It's a different kind of lifestyle. You're in the desert. There's always a threat of some kind of attack.
That's right.
You know, the politics are very, you know, unstable. The coalition government can literally fall apart at any moment, and then you have like 8 elections in 2 years. It's a very different kind of life, and it's not a life that I think I would be well suited to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because like when that October 7th came about, like I interviewed my tourist guide.
Yeah.
Because like I had to do it in Zoom because like obviously he's not here. But the thing though is that that's how they are prepared. Like, you know, for just in case something happens, the tourists are prepared. What are they gonna do just in case that there's a war or something? So they're prepared all the time.
My grandma was telling the story. She was visiting Israel, and she was at some shopping mall, and there was some kind of like display with balloons, and one of the balloons popped. That's a loud noise that if you're not expecting, it sounds like a gunshot. Everyone else in the store hit the floor.
Who?
Because they were like, it's a shooter. And my grandma, because she lives in America and has, you know, doesn't think that way. She lives in the suburbs. It's very, you know, it's very safe there. She's standing there, and it takes her just a second too long to realize what's happening. And it wasn't, right? It was just a pop balloon, and she was fine. But she's like, if it had been a situation, like I would have been gone, because we're just, you know, me and my family, we're just not programmed for that kind of life right now.
That's right. Yeah, and then like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised because like a lot of those people who are visiting, you know, they have relatives in Israel, they visited there, and then like, you know, they were not ready what to do because like they were caught in a surprise. So, you know, a lot of them were Americans who were born here. But anyway, I really appreciate your being over here. It was a great conversation. I learned something new today as well. I didn't get to ask a lot of questions from my bosses before, but anyway, they're from Iran, so it's a little different. That's another story, like, you know, moving over here. But for those people who are, you know, professionals in the industry of love, dating, and relationship, I'd like to invite you over here. If you have been in a relationship for a long while, maybe you have been successful, that's the reason why you have been together for a while, we would like to have you over here so you can share some nuggets. And if you're single and then you just want to, you know, be over here so that we can help you navigate love, dating, and relationship, give us a howler. And thank you again, Ashley, for being over here, and then we'll see you next time. Take care.